Jesus, what is there to say about Resident Evil 4? Resident Evil 4 is quite possibly one of my favorite games of all time. With over 11 million copies sold over multiple platforms, it paved the way for me personally as a gamer and a lot of other people as well. Like, it honestly showed how good a game can be. From watching it evolve into many different versions and playing the version we know today, it just has that charm where I still find some way to keep coming back to it with the 9 million versions I have of this game. I figured since the Resident Evil 4 remake is right around the corner, I figured it now would be a good time to talk about what I love about the OG Resident Evil 4 and just how it became such a revolutionary game over the years that many people enjoy and hold dear to their hearts. This is
Resident Evil 4.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
I figured now would be a great time to talk about what I love about the OG Resident Evil 4 and just how it became such a revolutionary game over the years that many people enjoy and hold dear to their hearts. But before we start talking about all the good things about the game, I want to talk about the development for a little bit because it's kind of interesting with this game and a lot of people know it, but I'd like to go over it because I just find it very interesting. So, the very first version of this game was the 1999 version. During the time of when this was happening, it is said that Shinji Megami, the mastermind behind this game, went under 4 versions of this said version, and the most well-known version is one I brought up before on this channel in another review, and that was the Devil May Cry version. It was directed by Hideki Kamiya and was taking the series in a completely different direction from what we saw with the first 3 games. And although the developers were on board with this different approach, Shinji Mikami thought it strayed too far from what the series was, and he was definitely right about that in the end. And as well, also, I'm glad this version of the game got made into a great series. Devil May Cry 1 would later be released in August of 2001. So the next version of the game that came into the spotlight is classified as the Fog version. Since Devil May Cry 1 came out and that was the previous version, development for Resident Evil 4 would resurface at the end of 2001, shortly after the release of Devil May Cry. The announcement of this version would come into the public eye in November of 2002 that it was going to be a GameCube exclusive as part of the Capcom 5. And what this means is it was 5 games that they were going to have for the GameCube, and these included Resident Evil 4, a survival horror game, Beautiful Joe, a side-scroller, PN number 3, or Product number 3. Never heard of this game before in my life, but it was a futuristic third-person shooter, Dead Phoenix, a canceled game, and finally, Killer 7, a first-person shooter. This version of the game was 40% done at the time, and this game actually saw Leon fighting to survive as he was in Umbrella headquarters in Europe and had been infected in his left arm, and the virus was called the progenitor virus. These 2 things in the story are interesting because if you kept up with the RE series, they got rid of the progenitor virus for the final version of Resident Evil 4, but then they used the virus instead for the plot of Resident Evil 5, which I thought was pretty cool. Also, the other thing that is very interesting is him having been infected on his left arm. If I were to take a guess on what they did with this idea, it seems like they gave the idea to Krauser in the final version of the game, which is pretty cool. They thought about this stuff way beforehand. So the third version of the game is probably about the most popular build of Resident Evil 4 before the final game came out. This one was shown off at E3 2003 and it was called the Hookman version, as people called it, or Resident Evil 4.5. This version to me had the best atmosphere because it seemed like Mikami and the team wanted to take a more psychological horror, kind of like Silent Hill in a way, approach with this version. Leon still had some kind of virus, and the enemies we saw in this version were small dolls, armored knights, and the most noticeable, the Hookman. Another thing that was cool about this version was how the camera was handled. You see, it had the fixed camera angles as the first 3 Resident Evils had, but the kicker was whenever you aimed down your sight, it had the over-the-shoulder perspective that we all know and love of Resident Evil 4 today. And then finally, the last beta version I'm going to talk about is the hallucination version. This version was only in the story concept because the scenario writer of Resident Evil 3, Yasuhisa Kawakami, felt ashamed of this version because him and the development team found the story he came up with was way too formulaic for their liking, as they just showed Leon infiltrating the Spencer castle, and he just came across a girl with a BOW dog, and they just make their way up the castle, and that's how far the concept got. I think this early concept is also interesting because this sounds a lot like the cult classic game from Capcom called The Haunting Grounds, where you play as a girl and their dog and they're making their way through a mansion. Sounds similar, right? It's cool that so many games derived from Resident Evil 4. And then obviously we have the final version that we all know and love, which is the next thing I'm going to go over, is the story.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
The story is set 6 years after the Raccoon City incident of Resident Evil 2 and follows Leon S. Kennedy, who now works for the government and is on a special mission to find the president's daughter, Ashley Graham, who was kidnapped by a cult named Los Illuminados in the rural village in Spain. He comes there with 2 other unnamed police officers that are killed immediately off because they're side characters, and you know how Resident Evil is with side characters. So, the first enemies that Leon comes across are villagers that are infected by Las Plagas, pretty much a parasite that's controlling their minds. He fights them off and continues throughout the village until he comes across someone or something banging from inside of a closet. Then come to find out it is a man named Luis Serra, both a police officer from Madrid, Spain, and also a former Los Illuminados researcher. The Big Cheese, or Chief Mendez, come to capture these 2, and does immediately with ease. During this time, while Leon is knocked unconscious, the main baddie of the game, Osmond Sadler, the leader of the cult, injects Leon with the Las Plagas that all the other villagers have. After Leon wakes up from his beauty sleep, him and Louis are chained up together. Leon then wakes him and asks him if he's seen Ashley anywhere. Louis guesses that she's the president's daughter, and Leon wants him to explain. Louis starts fucking with him and then tells him that he has psychic powers, but laughs it off that he overheard the villagers talking about how she is at the church that you saw earlier in the game, and that she's being held hostage there. But as soon as Leon's trying to get more info, one of the crazed villagers comes to kill him. Leon, though, being the badass he is, beats his ass, and him and Louis split up, and Leon has to fight through many of different enemies along the way. Villagers or Ganados, Big Cheese grabbing him by the throat and then saved by that bitch in the red dress, chainsaw dudes, crows, big lake monster, El Gigante, infected wolves that are a pain in the ass, and finally we come across the infamous Ashley Graham in the church. Everything goes fine and dandy for a couple of seconds until Sadler just appears out of nowhere to warn Leon that if he takes her back, he will control her and injecting a parasite into her father so he can control him and being able to control the world with the power. With them escaping Sadler's grasp for now, the 2 make way across hordes of Ganados in the areas we've already explored, except it's spooky because it's nighttime and raining now. After a couple more minutes, Leon and Ashley get surrounded by a bunch of other Ganados and they head for a cabin. And what a coinky dink, our boy Luis Serra is there to help Leon and Ashley fight them off. After that survival mode sequence, Louis disappears into the night and Leon and Ashley yet again fight off more Ganados until Leon finds the Big Cheese again, mutates, kicks Leon into next week. However, though, Leon comes out on top, reunites with Ashley.
Are you okay, Leon?
Ashley, did you not just hear explosions and 30 million bullets going out and Big Cheese grunting constantly? Guess not. Anyways, we used one of the Cheese's eyeballs on a door and we make our way to the castle. So, after Leon and Ashley got chased off by the whole village and into the castle, we have new normal enemies, or the Los Illuminados. Leon fights them for a bit and we come across Louis again, and he's getting ready to give Leon and Ashley a sample that will cure both of them of the Las Plagas that they got. Unfortunately for them though, Lewis made a big goof as he dropped the sample and has to go back and get it. With that though, Ashley and Leon continue throughout the castle, and this is where we meet Ramon Salazar, or as me and my friends like to call him, Salad Bar. He just says that he's been expecting Leon and Ashley, comes to tell him that they can die and won't be leaving the castle alive. Damn, what a warm welcome to get from our little midget friend. So they continue fighting one of the worst places in the entire game, and Ashley tells Leon to fuck off, but doesn't really mean it because she's getting controlled by the Lost Plagos in that moment. Gets caught in a trap and the wall gets twisted, and now Leon has to figure out where she's at again. So then Leon goes and decides to fight off some big bugs, go through some traps, and then he circles back around to the area he's been before, and we come across a fuck ton of guys. How in the hell are we gonna deal with just throw grenades and you're set? Anyways, Leon fights more enemies. Leon tells Salad Bar he doesn't really give a damn and he's gonna be taking him down. Blast some infected wolves that I died by. Then we come across the, I quote, bitch in the red dress. But Ada Wong appears, tries to get the upper hand on Leon, but him being the superhero agent he is, he got her in CQC. Leon confirms that the rumors going around were true about Ada working with Wesker. She flashbangs him with her sunglasses, all spy-like, and that's pretty much the end of that. Leon fights some more cult zombies, and then Lewis finally finds Leon again so he can give Ashley and Leon the cure for the Lost Plagos. However, Sadler comes to ruin that plan and kills Luis before he could give Leon the sample. Rip the boy Lewis, who will always be in our hearts. Leon now sad and pissed off. He's going to make sure Sadler pays for what he's done. It may have been coincidence, but Leon finds that Ashley had been trapped in this same room. Leon saves her, but then cult freaks attack again for the 90th time tonight, and Leon must stop them. He does, and then Ashley makes her way up to him, and they finally reunite with each other. Only for Ashley to be taken again, literally 20 minutes later. So yet again, Leon finds her, but a little someone is in the way that we met before. That's right, good old Salazar, and Leon has to catch up to him. After a while of fighting, Leon finally comes face to face with Salazar again and tells Leon that Ashley got sent to an island that's close by him. Leon is now pissed off and Salazar mutates with one of his alien wingmans that we didn't kill before. We beat him and Ada gets a boat somehow, and we go off to the final area of the game, the island. Once we get to the island, Ada leaves us once again. Damn, so many people just disappear, get kidnapped, or die on Leon. If I was in this man's shoes, I'd be depressed as fuck. Anyways, Leon goes on with his journey and comes to find his former comrade, Jack Krauser, shows up out of nowhere. This is confusing to Leon because it was said that he died in a helicopter crash 2 years ago prior to the events of Resident Evil 4. A little side note as well, I do want to say that when I played the game the first time, I had no idea who Krauser even was, but luckily a side game on the Wii called Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles, they explained this whole story and the relationship that Leon and Krauser had. Due to the connections that Krauser had with America, it was easy for him to kidnap Ashley. It is also confirmed in a cutscene that Ada and Krauser are both working for Albert Wesker, who plays a bigger role behind the scenes in the overarching story as a whole up until Resident Evil 5. Both Ada and Krauser's goal is to secure the sample of the Plagos sample, which Krauser ends up not doing because he is defeated by Leon and later on killed by Ada. After Leon gets Ashley back for the final time, Ada gives Leon the chance to make a run for it, and Leon and Ashley also finally get rid of the Lost Plagos. Leon then confronts Sadler, saves Ada, and Leon kills him with the help of Ada as she throws a rocket launcher his way. He secures the sample, but Ada, like she did in Resident Evil 4, turns the gun on him and gets the sample. Ada gives him a set of jet ski keys for him and Ashley to escape the island, and yeah, that's pretty much story-wise. The story for this game is pretty straightforward. Leon is on a mission and completes the said mission, which is definitely not a bad thing in any regards. It's one of those cases for me where it doesn't need to be this arbitrary, complex story that is hard to follow the first go around with the game. But is Resident Evil 4 the best story ever written? No, but it is far from being the worst as well. The characters are great. Leon is such a great main protagonist and is very loved throughout the series by many fans, including myself. He is my favorite character from Resident Evil. He is very much an action hero, especially in this game, which is so much different from what we saw him in Resident Evil 2, but it makes sense because he was trained as an agent under the government, so it makes sense story-wise. All the supporting characters are awesome as well. Ada is always amazing, and her story part is a good little cherry on top as a whole because it pretty much shows the story play out from her perspective. Overall, very fun and entertaining story. And yeah, that just sums up pretty much the whole story.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Next thing I'm going to go over is the gameplay. Holy hell do I love it. Is it a bit clunky to today's standards? Oh, 100%, but damn is it fun to me. From story mode to all the extra fun modes you unlock after beating the game. It holds up damn well all throughout. It's an over-the-shoulder perspective, which was the first time this happened for the Resident Evil series, and super controversial through the community because it was incredibly different from what has came before in the series. Was this a bad thing? Some people may look at it that way, but I think it was a great change. Although the first 3 games, the 1 remake and Resident Evil 0, are such timeless classics and really made a genre out of that fixed camera perspective, however, I think it was around the time the series needed a breath of fresh air given that we've seen so many fixed camera angles in Resident Evil up until this point of the game, which again, is not a bad thing at all. However, they did pick a perfect time to re-innovate the series in some way. You do cool little combos for the first time in the series, from my knowledge. For example, Leon has some kicks, and my favorite, the suplex. The different characters in the mercenaries like Ada, where she's in separate ways as well. Hunk has some of the best melee combos in my opinion. Krauser, and finally, the legendary Albert Wesker. All these characters are super fun to play and the guns they have are too. That's something I haven't mentioned yet. The guns, holy hell do each and every one of them feel great. So let's start off by listing all of them. So you got the handgun, the Punisher, the Red 9, Blacktail, Ada's shotgun, Krauser's bow, Ada's bowgun, Broken Butterfly, the regular rocket launcher, Killer 7, knife, mine launcher, rifle, riot gun, semi-auto rifle, Leon's shotgun, the Striker, and the TMP. Now of course there are extra guns after you beat the game, and probably some of the best in the game. You got things like the Matilda, the infinite rocket launcher. You just beat the main story for these 2 weapons. Chicago Typewriter, you beat Ada's campaign, separate ways to unlock this. The hand cannon, you need to get 5 stars with every single character in the mercenaries on every single map. And finally, the most broken weapon out of all of them, the PRL 412. You just have to beat professional difficulty to unlock this weapon, free of charge. Now, with all these guns, there's not a single one to me that feels like actual dog shit. All feel good and so satisfying to use, especially the Magnums. But I mean hell, they all feel good when you get a headshot off, and damn is it so satisfying. Now, if I did have to nitpick, the only complaint I really have with the gameplay per se is just not being able to move while aiming, but that's just a super nitpick, and it's only because I'm used to the newer Resident Evil games, so I wouldn't necessarily say it's Resident Evil 4's fault, as they were trying something completely new at the time. So, the next thing I would like to talk about is the legendary item box system they had going for in this game. From a simplistic standpoint, it works the same as all the other games before, in the sense you need to item manage and plan out certain items to carry out in certain situations. Maybe not so much with what key items you have because they've made its own category in Resident Evil 4, but you still got to manage ammo very much so like in the original games. However though, from a technical standpoint, it's almost completely different. You see in the originals, even in some games after Resident Evil 4, they had the whole gun or whatever item you had during that moment in time take up the whole square box for that said item. For Resident Evil 4, not only did they take it up a notch, they gave you the freedom in a box, which later on you can upgrade into a big ass box with even more room to move any item you have in that box anywhere you want in that said box. I love this system because it gives the player so much freedom in how they play the game. Want to organize all your ammo in rows where they match up with each ammo time? Go for it. Put all health items together? Do it. Put all your weapons on the left side of the box so you can equip them faster? Damn right you can. This item box is a person with OCD's wet dream to get everything looking perfectly, which is not a bad thing. It is honestly damn impressive that people can make their own inventory look so good. I'm not that organized, but I love messing with this inventory. The bad I would say about the box system is that this Resident Evil is more centered obviously around the action, and it would have been awesome to have gun shortcuts like we had in Resident Evil 5 and beyond, so the combat could have flown a lot more smoothly. But yet again, it doesn't take away from the game too much. Just another nitpick where it's very noticeable when you play the game for the first time, but the more you play it and get a feel of the mechanics, it flows pretty well after the fact.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
So the next thing I'm going to be talking about is the extra modes you can do after you beat the game with Leon. The first I'm bringing up is the Mercenaries. This mode was introduced in the predecessor, Resident Evil 3. However, it worked a little bit different in Resident Evil 3. You had to run from one part of the city to the other in a limited amount of time with limited resources. In Resident Evil 4, it puts you in one area from the main game, aside from the last stage, with limited resources, and a time limit where you can find more in the area to make the timer go up so you can rack in more kills, because pretty much the idea for this mode is to see if you can survive and keep a combo going with how many zombies you can kill in a row so you can get 5 stars. And the good thing is, if you get 5 stars on all 4 maps with every character, you unlock the special weapon I mentioned before, the hand cannon. Now, separate ways I mentioned a little bit in the story as you play as Ada and see the story from her perspective. This is such a good mode because, yeah, it's short and you can beat it in roughly under 3 hours. However, it's worth the time because if you beat this mode, you unlock the Chicago typewriter. And the last extra mode that was in Resident Evil 4 is Assignment Ada. This mode does not really follow the story as it just follows Ada on the island. She needs to collect 5 samples and get off the island. That's pretty much it. It's probably my least favorite out of the 3 modes, but it gets the job done and it's not too bad. But once you beat this mode, you unlock the Chicago typewriter again, but for Ada. And you get Leon's second special outfit, which looks like the Michael Jackson outfit, as I like to call it. The other little extra content they have is just cutscenes from both scenarios, which is not anything special, but it's the thought that counts. After that, that pretty much sums up the whole extra content you could do after you beat the game. Definitely the standout mode out of this entire batch is the Mercenaries for me. Going back and playing this mode, it has such damn good replayability. Feels like I'm playing an arcade game, going for a better high score over and over and over again. I don't know what it is with Capcom games for me, but they always have a good sense of replayability when it comes to most of their games. And of course, with the way that I'm talking, this game is no exception. Capcom, please, bring back these extra modes. That would be the cherry on top for the Resident Evil 4 remake.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
But my God, man, it has been 17 years, at the time of recording this, since we got this well-crafted gem of a game. It has left an impact on my life so much, as corny as that sounds. Hell, I reminisce with my dad sometimes about the good old days we had with this game. I'd watch him play it and he'd watch me play it back in the day. I'd even watch my friends play the damn game. So many good memories that I can't count off the top of my head. And from the looks of the scores and everything, I bet my life on it that many other people feel the same way. Capcom took a serious risk with this game, as it was nothing we saw before in the series or in many games, as a matter of fact. But at the same time, it was definitely a risk worth taking because Capcom captured the hearts of many gamers. I could talk about this game all day and night, but none of us got the time for me to gush over this game, because replaying this game again got me hyped for the remake coming out very soon from all that we've seen so far. All I gotta say is thank you, Capcom, for giving us Resident Evil fans and gamers around the world an experience that we will live on in our hearts until the day we die. hey to anyone that made it this far in the video. Just wanted to say thank you and all that stuff. Means a lot to me, really. The next video format like this I'll be doing is Devil May Cry 3. I just had the urge to do this video of Resident Evil 4, given that the remake is just right around the corner, and I just have a lot to talk about this game because it really changed the way that I looked at games back then. Because back then, you know, I'd just play a bunch of SpongeBob games or something like that. But this was the first like rated M game I truly played, and I was like, damn, this just captivated me more than anything. Anyways, I'm gonna hop on out of here and can't wait to make more videos. And remember guys, stay healthy and stay safe. See you guys later.